Hello, dear friends. Welcome to this program, Moments with God. And I hope that you're actually enjoying these moments with God through these videos where we try to enter into more relationship with God and a deeper relationship with God, hoping that these moments are really helping us. It is certainly helping me to build a relationship with God, and I'm hoping that eventually I would be able to make a good friendship with God. And if you like the video, you may please share it with others. Thank you. Today, as you see, I'm standing here before a door which I cannot yet enter unless I ring the bell, which is like a five-star hotel where you cannot enter without all the checkups and proper entry, things like that. And as you see, I am also today dressed up in a three-piece suit, and I have tried to put this muffler like the army generals or majors or brigadiers try to do, to look good. And I don't know if it is helping, but this is an attempt entering into a five-star hotel. I remember the first time I heard about a five-star hotel, and someone told me that was about 55 years ago. They said, to even enter there, the tea cost 5 rupees. Those days, 5 rupees was a big amount, was like 500 rupees. I remember that as a very small boy. So these are the style of, well-to-do rich people to show off, like I'm trying now, wearing this three-piece suit, as I told you. And you know why I'm doing all this? Because today, in the first reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Philippians, he says, "Do not do anything out of selfishness and vain glory." I repeat that. He says, St. Paul says, do not do anything out of selfishness and vain glory. And I think sometimes that, this kind of dressing up and entering into a five-star hotel for a cup of coffee, which will cost you much, much more than what ordinary people can afford. Why? Because I think, like I am doing now, lot of people live in vain glory, things that are not needed really. They do it because they have to be like the Joneses next door, or some people who are the new rich, as they call them here, neo-rich. Neo-rich are those who have not really experienced richness from their childhood or from their life, but they have become rich later, so they try to imitate the ways of the rich and the famous. And that's what Paul is trying to remind people about. Don't do anything out of selfishness and vainglory. And to tell you honestly, sometimes even making these videos, I reflect on my own self, whether I am doing this also out of vainglory or out of my false self, which is a very popular term, particularly when you go into spiritual life. You encounter this difference between the real self and the false self. The false self is what creates all this vain glory, selfishness, our own advantage, which is what Paul is saying. Don't do anything out of your self-interest or for your own benefits. Always think of others and do it for others. And quite precisely the same thing Jesus is repeating in the gospel today. He says in the gospel, he is invited to a Pharisee's house and he is gone there to eat there, and then as he sits down to eat there, he tells people, those who had invited him, when you invite people, do not invite your own relatives and friends and the wealthy. He mentions that very clearly, and the wealthy, so that they might invite you in return. But when you invite the poor, the needy, those who are unable to pay you back, who are unable to invite you back. And then your reward will be great in heaven. What a teaching! What a completely different way of thinking. That's why it is called the gospel. And that's why it is following Jesus which brings about a total change of life, of attitude, more than actually just these minor things of living. It is our attitudes which need to be changed. And please note that I keep on speaking about our spiritual journey, our spiritual life, deepening our spiritual life. I can say quite frankly that for a long time I did not bother too much about the depth of spiritual life. I was just floating along and always probably living in a false self until I discovered the meaning of real self where God abides. And when we search and find God living in our inner real self, then automatically our attention goes not to ourselves, to our vain glory or selfishness, but it automatically goes out to others. I am sure you too will eventually find in your spiritual journey that all these external things are external. They are done for selfishness and vain glory and to satisfy our false self. Let us get into our real self. And if you like the video, you may please share it with others and also subscribe to the channel. Thank you.